it's quite interesting. I actually landed in mining by luck. So I started after my MBA. I started in investment banking, and for the first few months, I was just in the generalist pool, if you want, touching different sectors. And I don't know why, but the mining sector was really the only industry that interested me. I guess I was naturally drawn to natural resources. So when they needed a dedicated associated mining team, I jumped on the opportunity. And I have to say though, like now even more than ever, I'm still very attracted to this sector. Obviously, I like the people, and that's one of the first things that drawn me, I think, to the industry, was the colorful people. But now I'm really truly excited by all the different, like the fundamental shifts that we're witnessing in the industry. Like the past 10 years have been, day and night. And really excited with kind of like that push towards ESG and diversity and inclusion and adopting new technology. Like it's really exciting. It's really a great time to be working in the mining industry more than ever, I think. Yeah, I would like to think so. I think it's definitely a must, and I think it's attracting more women in the sector, but just attracting the new generation in this sector as well. I think increased flexibility and mobility will definitely help a lot women when it comes to, for those who have to juggle between work and family. I think that career development is critical, and that's a really, really important one, especially if you want to start seeing more women in executive positions and upper management. Because as we know, there's still a lack, I think, there's quite the gender gap at that level. And I think the challenge as well, so attracting, all of these will help attracting talent, but we also have to make sure that we retain and develop the top talent. So there's definitely a lot of challenges. I think for women that are juggling family and work, I think more flexibility when it comes to maternity leaves and paternity leaves will have to be critical, especially in countries where, we're fortunate in Canada, but some countries like the US or South America don't have those paid leaves. So I think that's a critical component in having some more women. Obviously, pay equality. Career development. I think we need a lot more mentorship programs for women. And I think we overall need to also, it's not an employment condition, but we need to rethink leadership roles and how we hire and how we promote. And that we can't just be promoting people based on technical skills or hard skills, but we also need to think of what are the critical soft skills that make a good leader. And I think that's gonna opens people's mind to probably have a lot more women in managerial positions. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think for me, it's mostly, I've seen the biggest shift over the years at the board level. When I started in the industry, I don't think you had too many, that was about 10 years ago, you didn't have too many women on board at all. Now I would say that most companies will have at least one woman on board, and more boards understand that one is not enough. And we're definitely seeing a trend towards having 2, 3, or plus women on board. So that's really something, a big shift I've seen over the past 5 years. And, I think it's not just a box ticking exercise anymore. I really see a sincere commitment by mining companies to increase the women in the industry, and not just at entry level position, but really kind of across the whole spectrum of the organization. So there's more and more being done. And I think, there's still a long road ahead, but we're definitely moving in the right direction. And that's quite refreshing. terms of, it's the next generation in general, the problem, not the problem, but let's say the opportunity. And it's not a secret. I think we need to rebrand the industry in general. The mining industry now is not our grandparents' dirty mining industry. So I think it's really about conveying how mining is critical to the call it the green revolution. Mining up companies now, can operate with a purpose. It's not all about profits. It's about being good corporate citizen, operate in a socially responsible way, and reducing our environmental footprint. So we're competing with some industry that, for example, obviously the tech industry, that's an easy one. So we just in general for that new generation, we need to show that we are evolving as an industry and that we meet that new generation's key focus. If I look back to when I was in high school, I don't recall being exposed to women working in engineering, science, tech. So I think for me, the exposure to women that are working in those sectors is critical. And I think it's either class presentation or field work, and there's a lot of exciting career opportunities in those sectors. And from my experience when I was younger, I never had access to those. So it took me 27 years to figure out what I wanted to do in life. And I think it was because of a lack of exposure when I was younger. I would say, look, you can have a very exciting and rewarding career in the mining industry. And there's multiple possibilities. And there's really something for everyone. If you like, from field work to office work, you can work in remote mining camp, you can work in mining towns, which I'm, coming from Quebec, I'm thinking of Val-d'Or. You can work in cities like Toronto, Vancouver, and basically you can work all around the world. So there's a bit of everything for everyone. And you don't also need to stick to the same career all your life. If you want to be a geologist, you don't need to be a geologist for the rest of your life. Like a lot of us in the industry started, for example, geologist or engineer, and are now, in corporate roles or even running their own mining companies. So you can stay in the industry, but have a lot of different opportunities and change throughout your career as well. So it's not stagnant anymore. That's a very good question. I would say for me, it was probably when I started in investment banking right after doing my MBA. Joanne Firstman she was actually the head of Dundee Capital Markets at the time. And, she's still striving, but, capital markets are a very male-dominated industry. And she was extremely successful, extremely respected. She displayed from my eyes, which was a very, young lady starting in this industry. She displayed a lot of confidence and strength, but also compassion. And, it was very, very empowering and inspiring from my perspective to see such a strong and successful woman. Okay, so I think one of the biggest barrier, and might be a bit shocking, but I think it's ourselves. I do not want to generalize here at all, so I'll be speaking for myself, and it's going to be pretty personal of an example. So I'll speak for myself, but I'm sure there's many women that fall in the same bucket. But that was my biggest barrier. And that was because of my, I had biases and insecurities. And, like for those who know me, like I'm a pretty daring and ambitious person. both in my professional life and my personal life. I never shy away from a challenge. But when I was offered my first role as a CFO, I was this close to say no. I was basically ready to. I was being offered a CFO position, and I was ready to decline it because of those biases, because of those insecurities. And I ended up accepting, funny enough, because one of my male colleagues actually convinced me to accept the position. So, even me, I'm daring, I'm ambitious, I'm a privileged woman. I was being offered a CFO, an executive role, and I needed an extra push to accept that role. So if I needed an extra push, I think there's a lot of women out there that need one as well. And maybe I'll just drill down a little bit, on what are those, and I think it's important to talk about those biases and insecurities. And obviously, when you make a decision, you don't think about it right away. Now it's just more with the benefits of hindsight and a little bit more wisdom. I look back to try to understand why I almost declined an executive position. And first there was obviously unconscious bias, and I think most of us, uh, like I think for most of us, we still have biases when it comes to roles of women and roles of men. These are very deep cultural bias. I didn't think I had that bias. I grew up thinking I could do anything in life. But still, I didn't see myself in a senior leadership role. And I hate to admit it, but I think I thought that men were better leaders than women. And I hate to admit it, but I think that was my thought, and it's totally not true. But all these biases did impact my decision, which was to refuse the role at first. Another bias is the affinity bias. It's a boys' club. It makes you question: will I be accepted as a woman? Will I be respected as a woman? But also, I was pretty young. I was 33 at the time, so will I be accepted as a young woman? So there was all those biases that were telling me, no, don't accept that role. And then also there was my own insecurities. You always find I was finding reasons not to leave my comfort zone. Oh, I don't have the credentials to be a CFO. I'm not a CA. That will require too much time. What will people think? I'm too young for this role. Anyway, you name it. So it's pretty insane when you think that this decision of becoming CFO was a career-defining moment. And I almost missed that opportunity because of my own biases and insecurities. So, I can think of three things right now. So first, career development, which includes coaching and mentorship and empowerment is key. To help us address, because as women, like we need to recognize, we need to challenge our own biases. So I think having that coaching will help. And I'll bring a concept here of equality versus equity. So when we think about those career development programs, equality means that you would have that same standardized career development program for men and women, across the organization, kind of the one size fits all, that we all get the same equal, per se, opportunities. I think what employers should focus on when we talk about career development is equity rather than equality. And equity recognizes that women, we're different, we think differently, we have different biases, we have different insecurities. So when it comes to career development program, it really needs to be tailored for women. So that's, I think, one thing that companies can do. Second, I think, and I mentioned it earlier, we need to rethink leadership and what the definition is a good leader. It's not just about technical skills or hard skills. We got all those soft skills like compassions and what's not. That is, in today's world, we have companies have a greater focus on operating with a purpose, and that's where those soft skills or emotional intelligence is critical. So we need to rethink that leadership. And third, I think we really need to address conscious, unconscious bias. And it's more than just doing training. Employers really have to find ways to expose and address those really deep cultural sources of bias across the organization. And finally, I think obviously there's a system that needs to be changed, but most importantly, I had to change my mindset. I think I'm not the only one, but we really need to start thinking, instead of why me, we have to start thinking of why not me, and that will make the biggest, really big difference.